Hi guys, welcome to a new episode, and I hope you are having a good time. And in this episode, we're going to be implementing this create account interface or screen using Jetpack Compose in Kotlin. So as you can see, we have a full name field, we have an email field, and we have a country of origin field, which is, if you guys in this picture, United Kingdom, and their flag here. So what we've done here is that we've used we made a call to a library that supplies us all the countries and their flags with their country code. So with that, once we click on this, it triggers a Modal bottom sheet that is going to come up, supplying us with different countries arranged in ascending order, in alphabetical order. So once you select that, it populates on this outline text field here and also displays the flag here. So, and also once that is selected, here in our phone number field, the country code is also generated. For UK, as you can see, is +444. So this, in an actual application for the full implementation, if we have to do that in the future, we are going to make an API call to generate these country codes. So, but here I've supplied some dummy data for like selected countries like the UK and the US. So once you select the US, you're going to see +1 here, and once you select the UK, you're going to see. So it's just dummy data for this implementation. And as well, the postal code we also need to make an API call as well to find the real address. So but here we've provided also some dummy data as well, just to complete this implementation. Once you are doing this on your own application, it will be easier for you with this implementation if you are following through. Then our password field. So that's all we're going to be doing here, and I want to take this opportunity to appreciate all of you who have been making some useful contribution to the previous videos and implementation that we have been sharing on this channel. I appreciate all of you, and I hope you continue doing that. Whether you have anything good to say, it's welcome. Anything bad, it's welcome as well. So we just want to keep learning and keep improving and giving you the best implementation videos on this channel. So without further ado, let's begin. Then let's create a new project. So it's going to be an empty Jetpack Compose activity, which we are going to call create account. So I'll leave every other thing as it is and we'll finish. So let's make this a full screen. The only thing I'm going to change here, as you can see, we have some unique colors in this picture here. We have some unique colors, so we're going to set that up so that we'll continue to use them as we go. So first of all, for this for the icons that we're going to be using, we need some extended icon dependency. So let's just put that straight up so that we don't run into build issues when it's time to build this application. So that's implementation, and that will be Android X dot compose dot material and material extended icon Android for icon extended. Oh, there are specific ones for Android now. Okay, that's interesting. Now that we've done that, we need to close this down so that it doesn't have a clean interface. So right here, we're going to go to our UI themes, and I need to bring in some of the colors that I've used here so that we can rightly begin. So I don't want to tamper with this. Let me just create some new colors here. Copy this, and the first one should be dark blue, and the color code is, so I'm not going to bore you with this. I'm going to do this faster, and you can copy that if you are following along. I'll try to make this video as short as possible. So these are the three colors that we're going to be needing. We're going to need dark blue, then desert white, and sand yellow. So let's sync that, all of that. Since we're still here, let's create some string values that we're going to be needing as well. So here we're still going to break the apostrophe here. Remember that we did that in the login implementation. If you have not seen the video, just check it out on the description somewhere. You'll find the link to that video. I will put it in the description in case you've not seen that. All right, so these are the two strings that we'll be needing basically for this implementation. So I think we are ready to start building. So I will take all these out. We're going to remove this edge to edge so that we'll have our top bar for our phone icons and battery, and also change this to, surface as usual, and cut this off. All right, so now let's close all this down. Yeah, just as I like it. So now we're going to create a file, a composable file, which we'll call create account screen. So I'm going to copy that. So right here we're going to have our composable. Here we're going to have some parameters for that. So first of all, we're going to have a button, which is the create account button that will be pressed and our account will be created. So let's just create that parameter here, because we're going to be needing it down the road. Okay, on create account, click. Yeah, that should be fine. Just a unit. Okay, so we're going to also need our password visibility, which we'll use to toggle the visibility on and off, and that's going to be a mutable state, and it's going to have a boolean type. Okay, so after that we'll need on login click, because we're going to also prompt our user to log in if in case they already have an account with us. That's a good practice. That's the way it's done. Okay, so right down here we'll start fleshing out our screen UI. So first of all, we'll start with a column. So in this column we're going to have some column parameters, which include, we're going to have our modifier to set some parameters, then want it to fill the maximum size of the page, and also set some background. So our background is going to be the color that we have, the desert white color that we have before set. Then want it to allow the status bar padding so that it doesn't interfere with our status bar. The color that we're going to set doesn't interfere with our status bar. So then we set some content, some top padding of, let's say, 16.dp, and also we want all the content to align horizontally, so we use horizontal alignment for that and center that horizontally. Let's quickly create a preview so that we can see everything that we are doing on the go. Okay, So down here we'll set a preview. So we're going to call this, I think I see here, preview. So here we're going to call our create account screen here, and this our create account screen is going to have some, we need to implement all the parameters. So our password visibility, first of all we need to implement on create account click, and we're going to just leave that as empty for now. Then password visibility, we need to create a state here, a variable. So password visibility, let's call it that. So remember savable, to remember whatever the password visibility is, and that is going to be a mutable state of, and we'll set that to false originally. So we'll just pass that down here. And the last but not the least, which is on login click, leave that as empty. Then let's clear this body. So now we can see we need to build for we to see what we have done so far, which is nothing. All right, so we just start off now. Okay, yeah, everything is white. So you see now it leaves that room for our top up bar. Optimize import, close this down. Right, so let's begin fleshing out our screen. First of all, we're going to have a test here. We've done some of these things before, so I'll try to be as fast. No, this is going to be string as fast as I can. So this is going to be create account. I think that's the test. Yeah, right there, it's showing now. So after that, we're going to have some styling. We want that to be headline large, and after that we want this to be, want to add some font weight, right? So after that, what else? Let's make, so let's, okay, that's fine, that looks bold enough. I think this is too bogus. Let's make this headline medium. All right, so that's done for now. Then let's just duplicate this text. As you can see, the text is not properly aligned, and I want to add text align, and I want to align that to center. So that's done. So the next thing we need to create is to create that curve edge surface, the blue outline. Let me show you that quickly from our image. So we're going to create this section here, this curved outline of this blue here, so that it will look like what we have in our picture. Okay, so to create that, we're going to use a surface inside of our column. So in that surface, we're going to have some surface parameters which we're going to use to create that effect that you've just seen. But let's create a weight because we want it to float to the end of the screen. So 1F, and we'll also add some padding, some top padding of like 8 dp, and also we're going to add, make it to fill the maximum width because we want it to run from one end of the page to the other. And after that, we'll need a color, which is our dark blue color here. Then we also need to set the shape to give it that rounded corner shape. So it's going to be rounded corner shape, and we'll set the top end. Let's make it like 32.dp, right? And also top start. Oh, started from the I'm doing it backwards, but you get the gist. Okay, still fine. Right, so now you can see we have that outline here, and it's looking like what we have in our picture previously. Right, so within this surface we're going to have another column that we're going to use to align the elements that we're going to put, like our outline text fields that we're going to be using, and it's going to have some parameters as well. So modifier dot padding, let's add some padding so that it doesn't get squashed up. So let's make that 16 dp. Then horizontal alignment. So that's all the parameters that we need. So let us start creating our text field parameters. So let's add a comment here. Down here we're going to create some variables that we'll be needing, which I will call full name, and this is going to be mutable state of. So we'll just pass empty string and let's import remember. So now that we've created the variable full name, let's start out with creating our outline text field where we'll need that variable. Right, so this outline text field, we're going to have the value, and the value is going to be full name that we just created dot value. Right, so after that, then on value change is going to be a lambda, so which is full name, dot value. Then we'll assign that to it. Right, so after that, the next parameter is going to be the label, and this label is also a lambda, so we'll pass a text in there to tell the user what the text field is for. Right, so this is going to be full name. Right, so then after that we'll have our trailing icon. So in this trailing icon, as we did on the login video, we'll do that again here. Let's pass a surface. We'll use the surface to make that circle outline that you saw on that picture. So here we're going to use modifier and pass modifier dot size. We want it to be 40.dp, not too bogus. Then dot shape, not shadow, shape, and the shape is going to be this is comma shape, and shape is going to be circle shape, the class circle shape. So, and after that, let's add some color because we want it to be white all the time. Right, push this back. So let's find this color white, not desert white, or we can make it desert white. Nothing, still the same thing. As you can see, that round color is there. Okay, so then now let's use the box to add our, if you have not seen the video, this box is going to make the icon centered, because let me do it without the box so that you see the reason why I use the box. If you have not seen the login video, I explained that there, but let's just quickly add the icon without the box and see if it's going to come out as we want it. So image vector, and we pass icons dot default. Need to import icons. All right, dot default dot person. So this is the image, the icon that we need, and our content description here is going to be null, or let's just pass for screen readers just person icon. Okay, so as you can see how bogus it is. It's almost like it's occupying the whole space of that surface that we've just created. So this is the reason why I put this in a box. You see the difference now. So paste that here. Then in our box, let's just set content alignment and alignment.center. So look at what that's going to do. You see, it reduces that, and that makes it look better, isn't it? Okay, so that's that bit done right now. And since we've finished with that, the next thing is to add some more elements. So let's add a modifier here, and let's set it to fill the maximum width, and let's set our single line. By default, let me check. I think by default single line is true, but let's find out. Oh, single line is false, so let's set that to true. That means our text can always overflow its boundaries. Oh, this is fill maximum width. I was not even looking what I was doing there. All right, so not fill maximum size. So here single line, let's set that to true because we don't want it to expand beyond its height, the default height that we'll have there. So after that, the next thing we need to do is to make it, give it that rounded corner shape, and make it rounded corner shape, and make it like 100% rounded. Okay, so you see, so it's looking nice and clean now. So now we want to set some, you see the text is faint and the outline is also, the border is also faint. So let's quickly change that. So we'll change that by adding colors, and we'll set outline text field defaults. Yeah, that's this one, dot colors. So inside of these colors, we're going to set the unfocused color, unfocused border color, that's the border. I want to set this to sand yellow, the color that we've added. So sand yellow. Then unfocused border color, label color, I mean to say, let's set that to white to help it stand the text to be visible to the eye. Okay, yeah, isn't it looks much better now. So that's our full name field completed. So I'm going to copy this and duplicate this so that we don't waste a lot of time doing this. So now that we've created the email text field, the next one we need to create right here is, let's check, have a look. So the next one is the country text field. So but in this country text field, we have some implementation like the Modal bottom sheet that is going to come up. We need to implement that, but if we continue doing that in this is going to be too long than I like. So just to make sure, which I know in proper implementation sometimes it's not good to put some of these widgets directly on the screen text, especially in a big app. We need to separate concerns. So I'm going to do a bit of that there, but because it's just a UI demonstration, I will skip that. So let me create a component package here, which is where we're supposed to nest all our widgets for a proper implementation. And inside this, let's create a file called widgets. So that's where we're supposed to put all our elements, but it's just a lean demonstration, so I wouldn't fuss about that, but you can do that in your implementation actually. So let's create that, and inside of this is where we're going to create that implementation, so that we'll just call it up on our screen directly. I'm just trying to show you the two ways you can actually do it to achieve also the same result. So but this is the best practice. Okay, so right here now, first one is going to be our country selector. So, and in this our country selector, we'll need some data classes, because I told you we're going to use some dummy data to populate. We're going to be making a call to the get countries, like create some functions they call ISO countries. That's where we'll generate the countries from. Okay, so it's a free library that we're going to use to do that. So but for we to do that, like in our normal implementation, we need our data class, because since we're calling this directly from the internet, we'll need to serialize the data that is coming in. So here we're going to create a simple data class called country, and it's going to have parameters like variables like country code, and this is going to be a string, and also we're going to have country name, and this is also going to be a string, and also we're going to have the emoji, which is the flag of the country, and this is going to also come in as a string, right? So after that, we're going to create a function. So this function now, we'll call it get countries, right? I just want us to get this out of the way, then start our proper UI implementation. And this is going to return a list of countries, right? So this list of countries, now we're going to create a var which we'll call locals, and we'll set that to local, I think it's from Java util dot get ISO countries. You see that? So it's a Java library that we're calling this from. So, and we'll return locals, the variable we've created, and we'll map that to country code. So, and we'll set the variables, call another variable called local, and we'll assign that to our library again, and we're going to pass empty string as the language, then set the country code and pass the country code as the parameters. So then again, we'll set another variable called country name, and that country name we're going to assign it to local. So whatever we return from this library, we'll assign it to our data class. So local dot display countries, which is a helper function that we need to create down. Okay, so display country, and that display country, let's create that an extension function here, and this is going to be a private function, I mean to say. So this private function will get the flag emoji, get flag emoji, and it's going to have some parameters, country code, and it's going to be a string, and it will return a string. So this is a function from the library actually. So this is a extension function that is going to get the flag emoji and help us to display that. That was my bad. So, and for us to get the right flag for the country, we're going to use the first and second letter of the country code to get the exact country code for that particular, and also in order to reach their flag. Okay, so here we're going to create a variable called first letter, and here we'll set character code point at here, that's the one, Then country, we'll set the parameter country code, and we'll set the index to 0 and minus OX some hex code here, OX 41 plus OX F1, and let's call this second letter. This is going to be index 1, and also the code is still the same for both of them. So, and this is going to return a string of character dot to char. Then we'll set our first letter and also add the second character. That's our function for the flag done. Then after that, it's time to get the flag. So create variable for the flag, and we'll call that, let's keep flag emoji, and we'll set that to get flag emoji, the function that we've just created, and we'll pass country code in there like this. Then after that, we'll now call our country, then we'll pass the country code, the country name, and as well the flag emoji, which are the variables that we've created. So let's sort this by, we're going to sort this by country name. Okay, so with that done, these are all the functions that we'll be needing for this country selector implementation. And let's get into the nitty-gritty of the country selection. All right, so here we'll use our modifier, and we'll assign that to modifier. All right, then the next parameter is the label, and that's going to be a string, and this string is just going to be assigned to country, right? So, and after that, we're going to have on country code select on country selected, so, and that's going to be, we're going to pass our country class here, and it's going to return a unit. Okay, then after that, we also need the last but not the least, which is the selected country, and that's going to also be a country, could be null, and we'll assign that to null. So that's all the parameters that we'll be needing. I think I spelled something wrong here. Okay, that's fine. All right, so now we're going to create the states of the variables for our states as well. So we'll just do these things so that by the time we need them, we'll just put them up immediately. Okay, it's kind of boring, but it's what it is. It's Jetpack Compose. So we'll call our function here, right, for the countries. Then also we create our show bottom sheet, and it's going to be by savable, by remember savable, and it's going to be a mutable state of, and we'll pass false originally here, right, because we want it closed until the button is clicked. Right, so now we also need the state, and that state is going to be equal to remember modal bottom sheet. Yeah, that's the right one. Okay, so after that, that's all the variables that we need for now. We'll need to opt in for experimental material 3 API for these, and we'll need to import the set value and the get value for this particular remember savable. Yeah, so then also the bottom sheet is also requires a coroutine scope in order for it to work properly. So we'll also call a scope here, and we'll set that to remember coroutine remember coroutine scope like this. Okay, so now these are all our variables set. So now we need a column to align what we have so that we'll set them up properly, because we need some margins for that. So let's use a column here, and this column is going to have one, just no parameters, just we need the column scope modifier. Oh damn. Okay, modifier equal to modifier, the modifier that will pass up here, right? So down here we're going to start off with our outline text field, which we're going to use to make to select our country. So here we're going to call selected country, which could be nullable dot country name. That's what's going to be displayed when we select a particular country, yeah? Or if no country is selected, it should return empty. So, and on value change, we'll leave that as empty because we're not implementing this full app yet. So, and we need to set this as read only so that the users cannot type. You just need to click it, just like a button, and it pulls up our bottom sheet, which we'll use to populate the outline text field. So then after that, we need a label, and the label is the label that we just created up there, and we'll assign that to label, right? So after that, we'll need a modifier to show our bottom sheet, yeah? So modifier dot, because bottom sheets are not clickable, so but we need to make that to fill max width. Okay, so then we'll call clickable here. So in the clickable, we're going to use a lambda, and no need to make this 2 lines. So what we're going to do is just to set our show bottom sheet, and we'll set it to true so that it will display on click. That's all we need here. So down here we'll set our trailing icon, and we'll use a lambda to set our trailing icon as we've done with the other ones, just to save time and not doing this repetitive process. Let's just go to our screen and copy this implementation here to save time. Okay, you're already used to that, so there's no point wasting a lot of time on that. Okay, so but here in the text, we're going to this is not going to be an icon. We're going to use a text here, because you remember our emoji is a text, is a string. So we'll call selected country, and we'll pass this dot emoji. Yeah, that's how we'll access it. And if nothing is returned, we should return an empty string. And I will want to set the size of the font, because the size of the font also affects the size of the flag. So let's set that to 24 sp, import sp. Okay, so that's all done now for our trailing icon. This is the end of the trailing icon. Yeah, so after that, we're going to make single line to be true. I don't think this might not be necessary, but in case there is a country that has a long name, you never can tell. Okay, so here we're going to add a shape, and it's going to be rounded corner shape as usual, and we'll set that to 100 as we've done before. and after that let's set some colors, because now if you we can't preview this just yet, but if you have a look, because we set I discovered a problem while I was fiddling with this initially. Because this is read only, this clickable doesn't work. Let me see, let me just show you quickly what I mean. We have not implemented, we have a lot of things to implement to be able to preview this in real time, but maybe at the end of when I've finished creating this, I will show you what I mean. So because this is read only, this clickable from modifier doesn't actually work, so you might have that issue in your implementation. So the workaround for this is that you can nest this in a box and make the boss, which is the parent of the outline text field, clickable, and that will work. But in this implementation, I found a workaround which works very well. So which means now that this is read only and it disables the clickable from the modifier, if we make enabled, if we set the enabled to false, so that means this can now act as a button. This will disable the outline text field features and make it disabled. So with this enabled now set to false, this clickable actually works. Okay, so let's proceed. I will show you that before we finish up. Okay, just in case you've encountered something like this before. So, and also because it's that enabled is false, everything, the color looks like, when you disable a button, it looks like disabled a button. It doesn't have all the features, everything goes grayed out. So because of that, we're going to set some colors to make it match up with what we have, to make it match up with this other outline text field. If not, it's going to be grayed out. So because of that, we're going to set the colors manually. Okay, so first of all, we're going to set disabled text color, and we're going to set that to material theme dot color scheme dot on surface. So we'll set that to on surface, and then the next thing is disabled border color. We'll set that to sand yellow like the others, and disabled label color, we set that to color.white. We need to import color. So another one is disabled placeholder color. That's the one with the placeholder, but this is not actually, might not actually be useful but for this demonstration, but let me add that. So color scheme dot on surface variant. So then our trailing icon, disabled trailing icon, so if we don't change this color, the flag is also grayed out. So that is why we need all these colors to be set ahead, so on surface variant as well, so that will make it you keep the original color of the flag. Okay, so now that this is done, we're done here. Let's set the condition. So if show bottom sheet is true, then we need to call our country bottom sheet composable, which we will create in a minute. So and this is going to have some parameters like countries, and we'll set this to countries that we've created earlier, and also it will have the sheet state, and we'll set this to sheet states that we've created earlier. So you see why those things, to create them on the start is handy if you already know what you're going to be needing. Okay, so dismiss, we'll set that to, then but show bottom sheet, we'll set that to false. So then we also have on country selected, so this is where we'll now set what the condition to set the selected country in our text field. So we'll call on country selected and we'll pass IT like this. Then we'll set the coroutine, the scope, so scope.launch, and the sheet state dot hide. So once we've selected that country, it should hide the sheet. So dot invoke on completion, then we're going to set a condition, say if inverse of sheet state dot is visible, then let's set our bottom sheet again to false. Okay, just to kill that activity once we are done with it. Okay, so now we've created our outline text field and align everything that we need to create. Let's see if this will let us create the composable. Yes. So now in this we need to import sheet state here, right? So, and for we to use that, we need to opt in to the experimental material 3 as well, and this is going to be a unit. Set that to unit, then pass our country to that, like this. Okay, so now this is our bottom sheet composable now. So with that set, let's implement this bottom sheet composable here. So let's call our modal bottom sheet down here, and it's going to have all those parameters that we've just set up there. So let's specify the remaining argument to make it easier for us. So on dismiss request, on dismiss, let's set that to on dismiss. Then sheet state, set that to sheet state. No, we don't need all that. The shape, no, we don't need all that. So container color, we'll set that to desert white, and content color, we'll set that to our dark blue color. So tonal elevation, screen color, we don't need all that. So all we need, the last thing we need here is the drag handle, so that we can drag it if you want it to fill up the screen, and we're going to set that drag handle to the bottom sheet default drag handle. So bottom dot drag handle, yeah, just like that. Okay, so now we are going to have our bottom sheet. So let's quickly call that. I think I have some error here. I think I'm supposed to close this off, then remove this. That should be fine now. So if we go to our create account here, we can call this country selector here under the email outline text field. Is that, yeah? So under the outline text field, let's call our country selector. Our country selector is going to need those parameters, arguments that we've set initially. So here we're going to, I will set the modifier dot fill maximum width, and the label we can set that to, we have already initialized the label here, so we can easily cut that out. It won't be a problem. Then on country selected, we need to create a variable here to make that work. So we'll call that variable selected country again by remember, and we're going to pass mutable state of, and we'll pass our country and let's import the setters and the getters here. Okay, we need to pass null to this. Alright, so here on country selected, the selected country, let's start with that. So selected country, on country selected, we're going to use a lambda. So here we're going to call selected country and we'll assign that to country. We need to make this a var so that it could be reassigned. Alright, oh, we need to import the set value here. Let's run this and see what we've got here. Okay, so we've now called our screen on the main activity. Sorry about that. So create account screen. So if we run that now, it's requesting for parameters for the create account screen. What parameters are there? We have not even used them, but it is what it is. If you request for that, we'll put that down. Okay, yeah, I get it. No value passed for parameters. Yeah, no problems. Let's specify all of them. Okay, so right here we can make this just empty lambda. Down here we need to create another variable for password visibility. What's running behind? I think I need to close this up because this keeps rendering, and I guess that's why it keeps bringing up that loading thing. So down here, let's create another variable for password visibility that will collect the input. Okay, remember, savable. Yeah, and this is going to be mutable state, but I haven't seen my system this slow in a long time. And we just pass that down here. Okay, so let's run our app again and see if we can see something. Let's say something. See, our modal bottom sheet is working, even though it's bringing nothing is coming up, it's still working. And I don't know for what reason why this is grayed out. This is grayed out and this is also grayed out. So let's inspect our implementation here and see why that particular bit is grayed out. So I left out something here for the icon bit. For the text, first of all, we need to set the colors to, because I think in this text field you're going, in this text the color is unspecified, so it will assume any color of the surface, an alternate color of the surface actually, because the original surface is this gray that we have up here that we've reserved. So that's why it's giving us that color. So let's just add color and set our color to black. So as you can see in the preview, it shows better, but in the real app it's not showing well. Everything shows well here, but in the real app it's not showing. So for these icons, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a tint for these icons, and I'm going to set that tint to unspecified, so that it's going to retain the original color of the icon. So add that again, copy that, add that to our email as well. So if we run our app again, I believe it's going to come out as we desire. Yeah, you see that it looks better now, right? So it's that tint, setting this tint to unspecified will retain the original color of the icon, which is black. All right, so that's done now. So let's quickly complete our modal bottom sheet, which is already working. As you can see on click, pulls the board, because we don't have any item there yet. It comes out and you can actually pull this up. Maybe that doesn't work when it doesn't have an item. You can't pull it to cover the page, but that's fine. Let's complete that so that we can have all the functionalities working. Okay, so under here we're going to set, we're going to set a lazy column which is going to hold our dummy data. So that lazy column, we're going to set modifier, and we've set it to fill max width, and also we're going to set some padding, and we'll set the horizontal padding, we'll set that to 16.dp, and the vertical padding as well, we'll set that to 8.dp. okay, so after that we're going to call our items. So we'll call items, which is going to be a list of our countries. We'll call countries, then inside this we'll have country. Inside this country we're going to have a row. So in that row is going to have, this row is going to hold our flag and the name of the country and the flag. So this is, in this row we're going to have some row parameters on how we want it to show up. Import that for me please. Alright, so inside this row we're going to call our modifier again, dot, let's make it to fill the maximum width as well, dot, we'll set it to be clickable so that we can click it and select the country. Yeah, so on this is going to be a lambda which is on country selected, and we're going to pass country inside of it. Right, so after that we're going to set some padding parameters, and vertical padding we set that to 12.dp, then we set some vertical alignment as well, alignment the center vertically, then horizontal arrangement, want it to be arranged but want it to be spaced, let me say space evenly. Inside of this now we're going to set a test, and the test first of all is going to have the country name, right, and we set some styling as well, and want this test to be, like typography, want this to be the body large. Let's make it body large. We'll see how that will turn out to be. Then we'll set the weight using modifier, and we'll set it to 1f, right? So let's just duplicate this for the flag as well, so that I don't waste a lot of time on this. So this will be emoji, right? Yeah, that's the one. So, and we just need to set the font size. Like I told you before, it affects the flag, the size of the flag, and here we're going to set the size again. Let's just set the size here in case that one doesn't work, dot 30dp. Let's rerun our app. Let's give it a quick run and see what we've done so far. And I noticed the label here is not showing yet. Okay, yeah, you see. So now you see all the countries and their flags. So now you see, now it's populated. You can drag it to full size. What have I done? You can drag it back down, minimize it as you want, and if you select Samoa, now you see it's populated and our flag is showing. So that is our implementation done. Welcome back, guys. As you notice here, in our latest implementation for the country selector, our outline text field here doesn't have a label yet. So why that happened is that this label here, I passed in label directly, even though it's seeing the parameter here as country, but it's not displaying here. So for us to take care of that, we need to insert this in a text field, right? So that, I guess that will fix it. So let's see if that fixes it for us. Yeah, so the label is now showing, so everything looks like it is in our image. Where are you? So in our image here, things are looking similar, so we're making some reasonable progress here. So the next thing to create is this phone number text field here. So that's the next implementation now. So for us to implement this feature, actually we need to use, like, for us to get the country APIs, country dialing codes, we need to generate that from an API. So but in this implementation, I've created a helper function that is going to help us to kind of simplify this implementation to give us some dialing code from our country list. So I have a few function here. I'll have to create that. I'll make it part of, okay, let me close this down. I'll make it part of our create account screen. So down here, let's create a private function that we'll be needing. So this is just like a function that will feed us the dialing code, and here we'll pass the country code, and this is going to be a string, and it will also return a string for us. So this is return when using when statement. So we'll pass our country code here, then we set the condition. So if the country code is GB, should return +444. Then if country code is US, it should also return +1. And let's set some other countries, some popular countries like that. So if it's France, FR, it should return +33. Then if it's Denmark, which is DE, I guess that's the country code for Denmark, it should return +49, right? Let's do one more. I think this should be enough now for our representation. So you can add as much country code as you know or you find fit, right? So here, if you don't have any country code, like the country code is not part of our list here, you should return plus. That is our helper function here. So let's go down. Our implementation should be under this here. So to create this kind of representation that we'll have here, whereby we'll have an outline text field here where the country code is placed, then where the phone number, the rest of the phone number goes. We can do that by, we'll set these two together in a row in order to have this kind of representation, because it's actually two different outline text fields. Let's start with creating our row and passing some variables. We need to import row. So in our row, we're going to set our modifier, and in our modifier, we want to pass it to fill the maximum width for the whole row. So then we want to set our horizontal arrangement, and we'll set it to arrangement dot space by. I need to import arrangement as well. Space by. Let's let's pass 8dp there for the space between them. So that's our row now. So after that, we're going to be needing some variables, which is the dialing code for the selected country. Okay, so here let's create our variable, which we'll call dialing code. And dialing code is equal to remember. So remember, we're going to pass the selected country here, and once we pass that, within our lambda, we're going to say selected country dot let. So now the helper function we just created, we'll call that here get country dialing code, then pass it dot country code, not country name. Yeah, like this. So in case nothing is returned, we use this operator to return an empty string. Okay, so that's the dialing code variable there created. Then again, we need one more variable, which is the phone number variable, because we'll have a phone number field, I assume. So var call that phone number, and by remember, mutable state or pass empty string to the initial phone number when there is nothing that is selected and it's entered. So now that we have our variables ready, let's create our first outline text field, which is where the country code will go to, or dialing code per se. So here value is equal to the dialing code variable that we created above. Then on value change, we should set that to empty lambda. So the next thing is that first one is, we don't want it to be editable, so we'll set our read only to true. We want it to be read only because it's going to be populated automatically once we select the country of origin. So here we'll pass our modifier, and our modifier dot weight. So here our weight, we'll set this to like 30% of the width space, which is the row space that we'll have here. So, and that is, we'll use a float. So 0.3f is like 30%. So after that, the next thing we need is our label. What label? And we use tests again, and our test is equal to code. Let's call this code. Now that we've got a label, let's set some keyboard options. So our keyboard options, right? So our keyboard type, let's set the keyboard type to be phone number, so that they can just enter number or phone. Okay, so that we only have the phone characters, which is the plus and the numbers. So now that we've set our keyboard options, let's set the shape of our outline text field, and it's we'll use rounded corner shape as usual. So because we're going to set the shape only for the top start, and we'll set that to like 50.dp, and also bottom start as well, set that to 50.dp as well. So that will give us the finely rounded corner shape here. Let's have a look at what we have here. So this part is going to be left as it is, like in this one. So it's the top start and the bottom start here. All right. So that's the next thing we need to is to set our theme for our app, which is using colors equal to outline text field defaults dot colors, and in this color we're going to pass the unfocused. The first one is unfocused border color, which we'll set as our sand yellow. Then the last is the unfocused label color, which we set as our color dot white. Right, so this is the first outline text field all done. So I forgot we're using preview here. So as you can see everything is all lined up, but because initially we set our row to fill maximum width and there's nothing else it's sharing the row with, so it fills up the space, but the other one will tell it to adjust very soon. Okay, so let's create our second outline text field here. Outline text field again, and our value here is going to be our phone number that we created above. Then on value change, that should just, we'll need to make, on value change we need to set some parameters here. So new value, which is the value selected from our country, is going to be to validate the input that the user is putting in this phone number section. You see it's taking up, this has gone to the 30% and it's taking up the space. So what we're trying to do here is to make sure that the user is only typing phone numbers. So we'll set a condition to achieve that, and that condition says, let's add a little comment here. So we said the comment should be validate inputs. Make sure that the input contains only numbers, right? Okay, so that's all we're trying to achieve here. So here we say new value dot all, everything they are going to enter from after the country code should all be numbers. So it dot is digits, or it is equal to empty, and in that case our phone number value is also assigned to the new value, right? Like this. So it's complaining here. Okay, so we need a space there too. Okay, that was the end of our value change. So after this, let's add a label to that, and our label, we'll still use a test again, and in this test we're going to pass phone number, right? So that's our label. Then the next thing is to set our modifier to set the weight, and our modifier dot weight, and here we're going to pass 0.7. yes. So then now that we've said that, we need to set our keyboard options, and our keyboard options, we're going to set our keyboard type, and we'll set that to phone as well. So then our IME action is to go to the next text field. Yeah, so IME action dot next. Okay, so that's our keyboard option set. Then after our keyboard options, we are going to set a placeholder to tell the user how many digits are expected from them, to give them a hint of what's expected. And we do that with a test. So we'll say when, so let's say when selected country dot country code is equal to, let's set, when it's GB, which is Great Britain, we should return EG. We expect 4 digits first, then 456, then 789. Okay, so in total we're expecting 10 digits after the country code, right? So, or if country is US, the code is US, the country code is US, the user should input 55, then 123, then 4567. Okay, so that's the hint we want to pass to show to the user. So, or else it should come back empty, because we don't know this country's code or number formats. So because of that, we just show them empty string so that they can input that themselves. Then after that, let's set our shape like we've done for the first one to make it look uniform. So rounded corner shape. So from this angle is going to be top end. We set that to 50.dp like before. Then bottom end, we set that to 50.dp as well. You see that now everything looks as it should. So now let's set our colors to make it uniform with the others. As you can see, it's looking a bit different. So here, outline text field defaults dot colors. Then we'll set our unfocused border color. We'll set that to sand yellow as we've done before. Then unfocused text color. Is our text color label color? Label color should be color.white. You see, everything looks as it should. So let's give it a quick run and see if when we select the country like US and UK, if it's going to give us the country code here. All right, let's find our country called UK. It's bottom. So to make this app better on your own, you can implement kind of a search function so that you don't keep scrolling endlessly like this, looking for all this country at the bottom of the list. So that could be your own personal task. So now if you select, you see US +1 has been added, and if let's try to add the numbers. You see that hint that we've just implemented here. It shows you what is expected. Okay, so that's all done for us, and let's move on to the next. So what's next to create here should be, let's check. So the next thing to create here is our postal, our address, postcode, and address text field. All right, so you can pause the video. With what we've done so far, you can actually pause the video and see if you can come up with that idea for yourself. And if you did that, let me know how you were able to find out. Okay, so you can pause the video now and try it out on your own. All right, welcome back. Were you able to do that? I hope you did. So let's see our own implementation so that you can compare what you've done and also check out the differences. So as you can see, our screen is getting too long right here. It's getting quite long. So let's go back to our widget file and create the address field, then call it up on our screen. Okay, so first of all, we're going to create a composable, which is not composable, and create a function which I will call address bottom sheet. Now let's call this address field. We'll still create the bottom sheet later. Okay, so there's no parameter in this. So here we're going to create some variables that we'll be needing, like postcode by remember, and this is going to be mutable state of, and we'll pass empty string here and do that. And the next one we'll need to create here is our address by remember, and that is also a mutable state of empty string. And the next one is the variable to show address bottom sheets. Let's call that mutable state of, and this is false initially. Then let's create another variable which we'll call addresses. and this is going to be mutable state of, we'll have a list, and it's going to be string of addresses that we're going to create. We'll create this to simulate the addresses because we're not making a direct API call here. So this is going to be an empty list. Then here we'll create another variable which is selected country, and in this selected country we'll have mutable state of, we pass our country here, which could be nullable. And let's set this to null initially. All right, so these are all the variables that we'll be needing for this particular implementation. So under that, we're going to create a row just like we did in the last implementation, where we're going to nest the two outline text fields that we'll be using. So down here we'll have some row parameters like our modifier dot fill max width, right? So we'll set our horizontal arrangement. I'm going to space this by 8dp like the other one. Okay, so now we've set our row the way it should be. Let's create our first outline text field, which is where our postcode will be. So our value here is going to be the postcode that was the variable that we've created. Then on value change, we'll use a lambda. So this is going to be the new value that has been entered, and it's going to be of type string. So our postcode, we'll assign this to the new value. We want to set kind of a condition and a delay at the same time, so that once the user enters up to certain range of numbers, we should trigger the search. So like to make a proper API lookup or network call. So here we'll call, say, trigger lookup when postcode reaches typical length. So so that the postcode, like for England, is 6 digits. So if the country selected is England and the person is entering anything less than 6 digits, it shouldn't trigger the call because it's not correct. So that is what we're trying to do here. So now we're going to say new value dot length in 5 to 7. That's within the range of 5 to 7. We should simulate the API call to fetch the addresses, which we're going to be using some dummy data here. So we don't have a proper API call implementation here because this is just a UI demonstration. So, and for that, we'll have to create a private function again that is going to have some list of addresses, which we're going to call simulated address lookup, because we're just simulating the lookup. It's not a proper API lookup. Okay, and here we're going to pass our new value, then our selected country, which could be country code. Then here we'll say found addresses, because it's going to, we're expecting it to supply us a list of addresses once our search is successful. Okay, so now our addresses is equal to the found addresses. That's the address that was returned from the API call. Then show address bottom sheet, we fill that up, the bottom sheet with the found addresses, and we want to make sure that it's not empty, that it returns something, some data actually. So here we're going to create this extension function. So in this extension function, we have, first of all, we have our postcode, which is a string. Then secondly, we have our country code, which is also a string. Then we have on result, that's the return result on result, which is going to be a list of strings. So after that, within this here, we'll now set the variables which is going to return, which is going to be a list of dummy addresses, right? And we use when statement to pass our country code, whatever the country code is, then match it up to the list of addresses found in that country. So here, if it's GB, then return the following list of addresses. So first of all, return something like 10 Downing Street, London. Let's just duplicate this and make this number 11, because the number 12, which is the first address, is for the even and odd number. So this is going to be 2, 12, 10, 12, 14, right? So, or if the address is US, we should also return a list. So the first one is 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, then Washington DC. That said, let's copy this again and duplicate it a couple of times, and this should be 1601, then 1602. So that's it. That's our dummy data. Or else, if no list that is shown, like the list that is the country that is selected, we don't have any data from that country, that means it's not part of our dummy data. We should return one main street, right, just to show something on our implementation. Paste that one more time and make this 3, and this should be 2, or 2, not 3 again. All right, so this is the list of our dummy data. As well, let us simulate some network delay, like to show a little delay to make the user think that something is being fetched. You understand? So because these are some of the cases, edge cases that you see in a Ray app when you're making a Ray API call. There's going to be network delays for some seconds, so which is sometimes very negligible, but let's just make it look as real as you can get. So let's set delay, and we'll set that to 1 second, which is 1000 milliseconds. So then on result, then pass our dummy addresses, right? So once after that little delay, you should pass our dummy addresses that we have just created. So our first outline test field is now done. So now if we come back to our create account screen, we can call our address field here. This is the last outline test field, and this is okay. This is the row. Yeah, this is the row. So here, under here, let's call address field down here. Okay, as you can see, it's now showing up here, right? Okay, so let's continue with finalizing that particular widget. So now that we have set all these, let us set up the remaining parameters for this outline test field. This is comma. So the next thing is to set a label, and our label is going to be a test, and in our test we set the condition for choosing a particular label. So when selected country dot country code, let's set US to return zip code as the label, because in the US they make use of zip codes. So if it's the UK, let's return postcode. UK use postcode, right? So if it's not any of these, which is else, then return postal code, which will assume the rest of the world uses in our app though, not in real life. Okay, so now that's it done. So now let's set our width, like the size that we expect this to occupy, and I'm going to use modifier again, dot width. Let's use width parameter here and set that to 130. Is 130 sounds about right. .dp. Let's see. It won't show that more. Yeah, so it looks like 130 now. Okay, so let's keep going. Then down here we need a placeholder. So that means if the zip code is within this range, because we have just two countries here, we'll set a placeholder, and our placeholder will need a text, and in this text we're going to use a when statement. So when the selected country dot country code and it's US, I want it to return e.g. 90210. That's a dummy. I don't think this is a real address for anybody, so that's a dummy code. Then if it's the UK, I don't know if this is someone's address, but if it is, I don't know. So right, so if it's something like this, that means it's the UK. Then or else, if nothing of these two, then return us an empty string as a placeholder. Okay, so now that is done, let's add some shape. So in our shape, we're going to use our rounded corner shape as usual and set the top start to 50.dp and bottom start to 50.dp as well. Then after that, let's add some colors so that it will look uniform. So it's outline text field defaults dot colors. So in this color, we'll have the unfocused border color or label color is color dot white, right? Then unfocused border color, we'll set that to our sand yellow color. Let's have a quick look and see if that has happened. It's rendering, yeah, so it looks like it. So now the next thing we need to create here to keep moving forward and as fast as we can is I will copy this outline text field. Let's just duplicate this, copy this part and take out the parts that we don't want. So now here, let's set the remaining half, and this remaining half, the value here is going to be address, right? So then on the value change, we'll do that differently here. So on value change, we'll set our address, not addresses, and we'll assign that to IT, right? So we can push that to a single line too. So then our label for this is just simply the address label. So it's just simply address. Let's push that to use a text to put that, and it's going to be address, right? So down here we set the modifier to fill the remaining width. So we'll just set that to fill maximum width. That will still work. Then we don't need a placeholder for this. and our shape is going to now to be top end and bottom end, right? So then our colors are still the same. Let's have a quick look. Has it rendered? Yeah, just like as we want it. So everything is in form. So but let's set the condition to select our the postcode or the address from the bottom sheet. So to do that, we come down here and say if show address bottom sheet is true, then we need to display our address bottom sheet, which we have not created. So here is going to be addresses equal to addresses that we've created before. Then on dismiss is going to be use a lambda and set the show address bottom sheet, and we'll set that to false. So after that, on address selected, when they have selected a particular address, we want that to populate. So here we'll pass selected address, and we say that address is equal to selected address. So, and we want to set our show address bottom sheet, we want to set it to false once the user have selected a particular address from our list. So let's create this, see if it's going to create that now for us. Yeah, so here on selected is not going to pass error here. We want to pass a string of addresses, the address that have been selected. So down here we're going to do exactly what we did on the other bottom sheet, and also call a var, and that's going to be address sheet state, and that's going to be remember modal bottom sheet. Okay, then modal bottom sheet is going to have on dismiss request, and we'll set that to on dismiss, which we've just created. Then the sheet state will be address, what did I call that? Address sheet state. Okay, and it's going to be a small letter. Yeah, all right. So the next one is drag handle, and we'll set that to our bottom sheet defaults dot drag handle like this. So after that, we have our container color, and we'll set that to our desert white, and our content color, we'll set that to dark blue, right? So with that, that's our bottom sheet layout set. Then let's use a lazy column to display our items here. So in our lazy column, we're going to use modifier, and want to set it modifier dot fill max width, right? Then let's set some padding so that our items will be set properly. So horizontal, we'll set the horizontal padding to 16.dp and set the vertical padding to 8.dp. So that's the lazy column parameters. Then here let's call items. So in our item we'll pass our addresses. Then inside of our addresses, let's call the address. Let's set the address here, and in our items we'll have a text which is going to display the items. So first of all, the text is going to be the address that we've passed. Then the style, we want to set material theme dot typography dot body large. That should be fine. Then our modifier, and we'll set it to fill the maximum width, and as well we want it to be clickable. So when it's clicked, we use a lambda. When it's clicked, we say on address selected, and we'll pass our address dot toString, or we'll just pass our address like this, and that should be fine. So then let's set some padding as well, and we'll set some vertical padding of 12.dp. okay, so let's see why we're having some issues here. We need to opt in for experimental material 3. okay, that's all settled now, so everything is working fine. So let's have a quick look at our address and give our app a quick run and see if that address is responding as expected. So let's select. So here is showing postal code, and if we type 1 2 3 4 5, you see that delay. It comes with main street. So once we select that, it populates here. But in this our country, once you click it, it comes on. There's no delay for here, for the country one, but here it takes some time before it comes up. So let's do that again. You see that time. So this is our address here done. Okay, so after that, now that we've completed this, what's the last thing that is remaining? I think we'll have one more. Then our password outline text field is the next one we're going to implement. Like, as you know, we need to implement this toggle of toggling the password on and off as well. So that's the next thing we're going to do in the next chapter. So go grab a cup of coffee or water, whatever, and come back. Let's continue. Okay, all right, welcome back. So the next thing to create here is our dynamic password field. So to create our password field, we need some variables, which firstly is going to be our password, and this is going to be assigned to remember, and this is going to be a mutable state of an empty string. Then after that, we will need to set our password visibility to make our password visible or not. So visible here, visible. All right, so visible, we're going to set the visible to password visibility, which we set up above before, password visibility dot value. So whatever the password visibility, so that means if it's visible, we should reverse the state. Okay, make it invisible. Then after that, for we to be able to reverse the state, we need visual transformation. So our visual transformation is equal to visual transformation. So we set a condition to say that if password visibility dot value, what have I done? Password visibility dot value, whatever value it is, so we'll call visual transformation dot none, or else we should call password visual transformation. All right, so that's how we get our visual transformation. So after that, now that we'll have our variables, let's create the outline text field that we're going to need for this. So I will copy the outline text field for email because they are quite a little bit similar to what we have here, so that we'll save some time instead of typing everything from the beginning. So paste that here, and we'll change this. We don't need all this now, we have our own. Okay, so this is going to be password dot value, right? So, and this is the password dot value as well. So our trailing icon, yeah, the surface is fine. So we're going to set our icon in a different way. So not like this anymore. So we're going to, first of all, we need an icon button. So I'll copy this, I'll cut this out. So we need an icon button. So in our icon button, the on click is going to be our, when clicked, here we'll toggle our password visibility dot value. So whatever the visibility is, we need to inverse that. Okay, so we toggled our visible. So whatever it is, if it's visible, once we click it, we want it to hide it. If it's not visible, once we click it, make it visible. Okay, that's just what we're doing here, nothing fancy. Modifier.size, so we'll set the size of the icon to be 25.dp. So that's all we need for our icon button. Then within our icon button, we'll set our icon here. So in our icon, we're going to use if statement and say if I say if password visibility dot value is true, right? Let's set the icons dot field dot visibility. I think that's what it is. Yeah, so that means if it's true, that means it's visible to the eye. So if it's not, then else. If it's not, we should set icons dot field dot visibility off. I think that's what it is, visibility off. Yeah, that's the cancel one. So after that, we set our content description as usual, and we'll set that to null. So if our label here is password, I think I will change that. Okay, so you see our password icon is showing now, but it's kind of gray compared to this one. So that means when we run the app, like how it happened initially, is going to be grayed out. So now what we need to do is to set the tint for that and set it to color dot unspecified. That will make it retain its original color. You see that when it's rendered, you see now it's the same with all this. All right, so that's it. Now we have our password done. So the next thing we need to add here is to add, so where is the trailing icon? So we'll have a modifier, few marks width, then single line, set that to true as well. Then every other thing is just as we want it to be. So that's our password done. So the next thing we are going to create here is the button. So to some people, you might argue, because it's a create account section, you can verify the password as well and ask them to enter it twice so that they don't forget. But because we already have too many this thing here, I just want to leave that out for now. Okay, so but in your own implementation, you can just duplicate that and use it for verification of the password or confirmation of the password, whatever you want to call it. So after that, now that we've completed that bit, the next thing we are going to be doing is to set our button and the text down here. Set our create account button here and the little text that will tell them if they already have an account, there is no need to create a new account, they can just log in. Okay, so under here, let's create our create account button. So create account button, right? So in the create account button, we're simply going to use a button to do that. So in that button, we'll have the on click, which is going to be on create account click. Then we'll use our modifier to set the size and the dimensions of our button, and we set the width of our button to be width, not width. We set that to 250.dp because the default size is going to be smaller than our text fields here, which I don't really like. You see how small it is. So let's set that this is the default height. So let's set our own height to make it match up a little bit to our outline text field. So we'll set that to 25.dp to make it help it grow up a bit. Okay, so then our padding, let's set a top padding because it looks a bit squashed up there. Let's set a top padding of 16.dp to give it some nice breathing space. Then after that, let's set our color. I don't like that color, you agree with me. So our colors, so we use button defaults dot colors dot button colors, guess that's the one. So now we set our container color, we set that to sand yellow according to our app theme, and we'll also set our this is content color, not container color, so that will be dark blue. Then our container color, we'll set that to sand yellow. Okay, so that's all done now. So the next thing we need to create here is the text, which is the title of our button, which is nothing but is going to be create account. That's all it is. I think sometimes my hand moves faster than the keyboard. All right, so let's tie that up a bit. It looks a bit tiny, so let's set the typography to label large, should be fine. Then let's also set our font size. Let's make it like 18.dp, 18.sp, then font width, and let's make it font width dot bold. All right, let's import this guy. All right, so that should look better now. Okay, see, everything is standing out and it's looking nice and clean. So let's set our test and quickly give it the last run and see what it looks like. So but before we set that, let's add some spacer here, so that, because I don't want that test to be anywhere close. So we'll set our modifier dot width or height. We're dealing with height here, and I'll set that to 40.dp because I want it like somewhere around here, right? So now let's add a sign login prompt. That was what it should be, login prompt, in case the user already have an account. Okay, so now in our login prompt, we're going to create a variable because we're going to be using annotated string, which means that some part of the string, here's the picture. So like now we use annotated string to make part of the string, like this is highlighted, and we can make this clickable where these ones are static. Okay, all right, so now let's create a variable and we call that login, right? That's a good name. And we'll call build annotated string. So in our annotated string, you say with style, we have our style, which is going to be span style, and in our span style we're going to pass a color, and that color is going to be color let's call this sand white. Oh no, desert white, that's what that color is here. So then we have our font size. I think sometimes I type first. Okay, yeah, we'll set that to 18.sp. Then outside of that, from the style, we'll add a body which is going to be appending our text. So here we say, do you have an account? Right. So now then the next one, we just copy this and duplicate that. We're trying to save as much time as we can. All right, so here this is going to be sand yellow, yeah, and here is going to be login. Right, so I think that's everything that we need. So outside of our variable, we're going to call clickable here, clickable test. Seems like clickable test is deprecated, but we'll use it anyways. So here we'll pass our test. So with that, we can select the particular test that we want to pass, which is the login prompt. Then after that, on click, we're going to pass on login click that we have originally, and also set a modifier. I think I'm missing a comma here. Not missing any comma here, but so modifier dot padding. I don't think that's worked, but why is it complaining? No one, this candidate is. So we use the clickable test even though it's deprecated. So here I've created this clickable test with this clickable test function here, but it's deprecated now. So now I made some research and found out you can now use a clickable modifier for that. You can call modifier on that particular test, the clickable modifier, and you see achieve the same effect now. Or you can use the linked annotation, just like the same way we've used here. We can just use a linked annotation URL, but since this is not leading to anywhere, so I decided to just leave it like this for now. But if it's leading to maybe to your login page, if this is a full app, then you can use linked annotation if you're using deep links for your navigation or whatever you're using, so that you can just pass the URL for the page right there, so that it does lead the user to that place. So with that, I can say that our create account screen is done, but it seems like this 40 dp here wasn't that much, so which is the space I've put here. So let me increase that to, like, let me say I increase that to 60, because I want this to just be far away, because it's just an additional link. So that looks better, but let's see what it looks like in the app itself, because this is just our preview. You know, sometimes it gives something different which we don't want. So let's test that on our emulator and see. Okay, yeah, it's still not far away as I want, and even the button is not as big as this. You see the whole difference. So it depends on your phone, the screen size of your phone. If you're using a big phone like Samsung S24 that has a larger screen, you might see some slight difference in the way this UI is displayed. So which is something that you can look into, like working with intrinsic size and all that. So but that's a video for another day. So but right here, I think we can go with that, and we've not tested our password yet. So let's see if that visibility stuff is working. No, it's not working. It's visible even when, but the toggle is working. So but we need to have that effect on this. So let's go back to our password and find out why that's not working. So our function here is the toggle is working on click. Yes, reverse that. So there's something else we've not called here, which is the visual transformation. So that visual transformation we created earlier, as you can see here, we've not called that yet, and I believe that's why. So let's call visual transformation, and we'll pass our visual transformation here like this. So let's give our app a quick rerun and see if it's working as expected. Okay, you see now our password is hidden, so let's toggle that. Yeah, so it's working now. All right, so that's the end of it, guys, and I hope you've learned something new and you can use this in your own project as you go. So I will encourage you to subscribe if you've not, and I appreciate some of you who have already subscribed and are writing some useful comments on our videos, which is helping us to make this better for you. So, and I also give it a thumbs up if you like what we've done, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you and cheers. Have a good day ahead.